All right. Good morning, Cows Radio. It is 8:30. You are listening to Inspiration and Information with Jen Julius. And I've got the wonderful, amazing, and perfect Mickey Griffith here in the studio with me. Say hi, Mickey.
Hi, Mickey.
Oh, so today we are going to have a good time, obviously, because we always do.
Sure.
But we're going to be talking about why having a why is critical to building a referral-based business. So for anyone out there that has their own business, is an entrepreneur or owns a small business, maybe even a large business, depending upon what they're really committed to, we're going to share some really great information. I'm just going to pretend to, with Mickey as my assistant, who's really bringing all the heat. So I'm just going to take some credit for it. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Done. Easy.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I do. I'm kind of, what are those called? Leeches?
A leech?
Yeah. I just kind of suck the life out of things. Yeah. It's kind of my
parasite.
It's kind of my, yeah, exactly. It's so fun. So what I would love to know, and I think what our listeners might love to know first, is who are you? What do you do? And how'd you start doing it?
My name is Mickey Griffith. I'm with the Referral Institute, and I've been in the marketing industry for about 18 years. Started off in the print industry and into marketing on all levels, supporting sales, that kind of thing. Grew up somewhere else. Actually, this year will mark 20 years in Sonoma County, though.
What?
So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about being here for that long. I love Sonoma County. It's so awesome here.
Yeah,
the weather and everything else. I really truly think we're living in one of the best places on the planet.
Paradise.
Yeah.
So
after my short stint in the Navy of about 6 years, I went into.
Thank you for your service.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. You're welcome very much. I got a job at this print related company and started right into sales and marketing support and that kind of thing. And I've been in the industry in some manner or facet for about 18 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
18 years in the marketing industry?
Yeah. And a variety of things. Everything from website to consultation to trade show prep and all of that good stuff.
Okay. So when did you start working with the Referral Institute, and what is the Referral Institute?
Okay. So the Referral Institute is a worldwide organization, and it's actually a franchise company.
Okay.
And it was started several years ago, and I don't know how much history you want me to go into, but it was essentially came out of the same mind that started BNI, which is Business Network International.
We love BNI.
Big fan of BNI.
Yeah.
And what happened was in the late 90s, early 2000s, Dr. Meisner saw the need to have a separate institution or company really tackling the education behind referrals. He had been around referral marketing for a long, long time. And while BNI is a fantastic structure to work the referral marketing method, it also doesn't have the mission to really deliver education on many of the mistakes that he was seeing and that we tend to run into when you get into the environment. People just we're just not wired that way.
Sure.
So what he really understood was that colleges, universities around the country don't teach referral marketing. They teach sales. They might teach they teach a lot of business, but they don't teach a lot of referral marketing. They teach all kinds of other marketing, but they consider referral marketing to be something of a soft science, which is kind of funny since about 93% of our business is typically done by word of mouth.
Right.
So there's a lot of science behind it. He felt there was a lot of science behind it, and putting some quantifiable information behind referrals and the referral marketing process was very important to him. And I'm really glad that he did it because he came up with the Referral Institute and he joined up with the now president, which is Mike Macedonio. And Mike Macedonio is married to Dawn Lyons, who is the owner of BNI. And so they own BNI together, as well as she's my partner in my local franchise, which is Marin in Sonoma County. She also has a franchise in Contra Costa and Oakland with different franchise owners there.
And then she owns how many regions of BNI? Like 3 in California, right? 3
in this area. She owns. Her and Mike together own all but San Francisco and the Peninsula for BNI. So yeah. So the biggest question that we get a lot from people is Referral Institute and BNI the same thing? So the answer to that is no.
Right.
They're two very different things. In fact, most people that are in BNI would be surprised to if they read the mission for BNI, the word education's not even in there.
Right.
But they feel like they get a lot because there's a little educational moment. And,
Sure.
And actually, it's because of Dawn Lyons and Mike Macedonia's dedication to referral knowledge that this region of BNI just happens to get a lot of education.
Right.
So the difference between it is in BNI, we only have the time to deliver little tidbits.
Right.
So twice a year we have leadership training, and there's a lot of information generally in that. And then we get a weekly little 3 minutes in our BNI groups about education, but it's not enough to really make it stick, and it's certainly not enough to make a plan around. And that's a big part of what we do at the Referral Institute. Is help people develop an actual plan for how they're going to get referrals.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the difference between going to networking events and praying that referrals fall out of the sky and land on your head. And what we do is provide a method and a strategy and systems for how you're going to go out and get referrals to happen with more frequency and with higher quality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I'm just thinking, I'm like, if I didn't know exactly what you were talking about, I'd probably be a little bit confused. So definitely if people, which is fine, because I want people to know that we're going to throw a lot of information at you, and we'll also provide some contact information for both of us if you want to reach out and ask any questions. Is
Sure.
that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of just said that we're going to do it whether it's okay with you or not.
Yeah, of course.
And then what a jerk would you look like if you said no?
Yeah, no thanks. I don't want you to promote my company.
No promotions happening.
That's right.
So I really appreciate that, because I really believe that for me, part of the way that I've been able to build my business is from an educational standpoint of understanding how to build my business
Right.
and understanding how to be a successful entrepreneur, which has a lot to do, especially with what I do as a coach, in understanding referral marketing. So I was hoping, can you specify a little bit about, we said it's a soft science, but that also 93%, I believe you said, of business is word of mouth. Mm-hmm. Is that in general, or is that just for certain types of business, or what would you consider?
That was, I believe, out of a study by Michigan State University. It's don't quote me on that, but it's and that's a rough number.
Probably in general, though, I would think.
Yeah, it's in general.
Because even no matter what you're doing, you usually say, hey, do you know blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, it's
call
funny
your mom,
because
call your sister. Yeah.
Well, and I hear people all the time say, when I ask them, so how much of your business is by referral? And they say, all of it. I get all of my business by referral.
Yeah.
And then if you really push them on it and you say, so, have you ever been in a chamber of commerce? And most people say yes if they're a business owner. They've spent time in a chamber of commerce. And have you been at a chamber of commerce mixer and you've met the same person 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and they've heard of you from other people and they've heard testimonials or whatever, and then they come up to you and they say, "Hey Jen, I'd like to work with you," right? Many people say
all the
they'll
time,
say, "Yeah, you bet." So is that a referral? See, people always count that as a referral, but it's not. You've actually prospected the room, and it's true for BNI members too.
Huh.
When your BNI member comes to you, now I wear 2 hats. I wear a BNI hat and a Referral Institute hat, so I got to put them on separately. If you're in BNI, please keep turning in your slips for referrals that you do with in your chapter. But in Referral Institute, if I'm counting that myself, I wouldn't count that as a referral, because essentially I've just made a relationship with you and you've decided to do business with me.
And that's what we're going to really nail today, is that building relationships is the key to building a referral-based business, and most businesses are referral-based.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Perfect.
Yeah. So you also asked me how I got where I am.
Yeah, I did, and I want to hear that. I am all over the place because I'm so excited to have you here.
That's okay.
Perfect. Keep me on track. That's why I brought you in the studio. I said, Mickey, I need you to keep me in line right now.
We'll work on keeping on track together.
Perfect.
So how I ended up here was, again, I've been in the marketing industry for a long time, and in 2007. Everyone remember 2007? What a great and wonderful financial year that was. 2007, I was looking for work, as was a lot of people, and it just wasn't out there to be found. But I had a network of friends that just kind of kept dropping work on me. I was doing a lot of graphic design work, and I exercised those relationships as much as I could, and just kept telling people I need to do design work, and I got to pay bills. So I kind of fell into that entrepreneurial start by, I always say I went into it by self-defense, because people kept giving me work, which was cool, but I was still searching for a job. And then finally I said to my wife, we're going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do this as a business. And if I'm going to do it as a business, we got to do it right.
Right.
So went into entrepreneur mode, went into BNI fairly quickly, let's say within 6-8 months. And got very involved in BNI right away. My group was a startup group, so I was a core member, and I helped launch the chapter. Very proud of that, and I love my chapter. Consequently, some of the same people that helped start that chapter are still there, and we have fantastic, deep relationships. Mm-hmm. And I became president of the chapter the next year, and I was just very, very involved. Well, you'll find out as we go forward. I'm incapable of not being involved.
I hear that.
Yeah, I'm a serial volunteer.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, I was really taken by the leadership. And if you know Trey McAllister, Trey McAllister is part of the leadership for BNI, basically the director under Dawn and Mike for the entire region, also and the entire northern region of California.
Wow.
And he is, every time I saw him, I was just like, this guy is so good. I really like what he's made of. I just like how he moves. And I remember sitting at the back of the class at MSP training, which is membership success program, and it's a kind of a required thing with BNI when you join. And I remember watching Trey and going, I don't know what this guy does, but I want to do that.
Wow.
Whatever he's doing, I want to do that. And so a few months later, I went up to him after a leadership training, and I said, I want to do what you do. So I'm just going to follow you around for a while. And he kind of laughed. He said, okay, all right, whatever you want to do.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I had to concentrate on my own business, and I did. So I was working diligently and building my business. I was building very quickly. My revenues were doubling pretty much every year.
Wow.
And not in small part to BNI. And I went to Dawn, and I reached out to her and said, hey, I'd like to work more with BNI and Referral Institute in some capacity. I don't know what that means, but I want to do that. So she said, great, let's have a one-to-one. Let's sit down and see what that looks like. So I sat down with her, and she basically gave me about an hour-long kick in the rear end about my own business and where I was.
I hear that.
And if you know Dawn, you know that's not a big surprise, right?
Yeah.
So she said, you need to get your own house in order before you before you want to move on. And she was right. I still wasn't where I needed to be at all. So I made notes of what we talked about, and I realized that she wanted to see more out of me if she was going to work with me.
Sure.
So a year later, I had a new office. I had doubled my revenues again. I was making good money, and I was really on the move. And then some life changes came up, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a bit. But I reached out to her again, and I reached out again through the highest level relationship that I had with her. And I said, this thing with Dawn is not going fast enough for me, and I want to accelerate it. So how do I do that? And it was then that we talked about, the Referral Institute is a franchise company, so let's talk about the franchise opportunity. And they connected, that person, Tim Macklin, connected me with Dawn again. And I sat down with Dawn, and at that point, she was losing her personal assistant that helped out with the Referral Institute, and she was looking for a partner in her franchise.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, right place at the right time, reaching out to the right relationships, and having a great relationship with Tim was important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I ended up, sitting down with her and Mike Macedonio and saying, so what is this whole franchise thing about? Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So that's another good example of if you don't ask, you'll never know.
Right.
Because if I had never asked her, I would still be running my other marketing company.
Totally. That's what my aunt taught me when I was little. She said, what's the worst that can happen, Jen? Somebody says no, and then you get what you've already got.
Right.
So it's like, meh.
And my mom was big on that. She was very big on.
Yeah.
And
then for people like me that have no shame, just ask everything, right? Yeah. Perfect.
That's right.
Okay, so I'm curious. We've talked about how relationships are important in building a referral-based business. But what we've told listeners today when we were telling people about the show is that we were going to talk about why it's critical to have a why in building a referral-based business.
Okay.
So I'm going to open it up to you wherever you want to go with that. If you want to maybe talk about what that means, or if you want to talk a little bit more about the relationship component of referral marketing, wherever you want to go at this point.
Okay, well, it's the all of that's intertwinable. I mean,
Perfect.
It's all weaved,
I love it.
It's all weaved together.
Tell us a story, Mickey.
So, so let's start with what we just talked about. Though we talked about my background, we talked about how I got where I am, and what I've done with my life, and in the last 20 years, and as much as I love to talk about how I got here and what I do, how interesting was that? I can hear your listeners going, okay, so he's nobody and he knows somebody and he talked to somebody and all right, so he knows Dawn Lyons and right. And some people actually will go, oh my God, he knows Dawn Lyons, right? And did he name dropped for 20 minutes?
Oh gosh. Well, just actually for people that are listening that are interested in building business stuff, I will have Dawn Lyons on the show March 6th, I think, and she'll be offering some more really good information about building business stuff. So it's actually good that you talked about her a little bit so people know, oh, okay, now we know who she is, and they can look forward to hearing her too.
That's a total coup for you, having Dawn Lyons on the show.
I don't know what coup means.
Coup. It's like
not my generation,
over
Mickey.
The world.
Talk 20-year-old language. Come on, give me a break.
That's a massive win for you.
Oh.
For having Dawn. Oh, she's amazing.
She is amazing. She is amazing.
She literally wrote the book on behavioral styles and how they relate to your referral marketing. I mean, she's super qualified to come on here and tell you, share with people how they can really build their business by referral.
Right.
So what we've talked about so far is the what and the how, right? So what I do, not so much how I do it. The how is pretty short, though. It's we offer classes and one-to-one consultation and coaching and that kind of thing.
Sure.
We have a place in Petaluma and yada, yada, yada. And I can hear your listeners falling asleep faster as we talk about that stuff.
It happens.
Because it's not that important when you really get down to it. I mean, if people need what I need, what I provide, they may come looking for me.
Right.
But if they want what I have, then that's maybe a different thing.
Ooh, I like that. Writing that down.
If they want what I have. So the way that we build business by referral is absolutely by relationship. And I didn't build a relationship with you because you're a coach. I didn't build a relationship with you because you're in business in BNI. Mm-hmm. I built a relationship with you because, well, frankly, you're really cool. but also because of your story, right? And your story, and it's on your Facebook page, and that's your thing. Change your story, change your life, right? So it's really more about why we do what we do,
absolutely,
than it is about what we do or how we do it, and that's what people really buy. Because here's the example: you're a life coach, right? Mm-hmm. How many other life coaches are there just in Sonoma County?
A ton, thank goodness. I ain't trying to deal with everybody.
Because you ain't trying to deal with everybody. And that is a really good idea, to be selective about who you're going to work with. The thing of it is are you a good life coach?
For the people
are you good at what you do?
For the people that I'm supposed to be working with. It doesn't matter who it is.
Are you good at what you do?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're good at what you do. Of course you are. You rock.
That's right.
Right? You're good at what you do. You're dedicated to what you do. You provided good service. You provide it consistently and clearly, and you show up and you're a professional, right? So is every other life coach that's out there. The difference between them and you is you. Right. And it's why you do what you do that makes you singularly unique. It's why you shine the way that you shine. Right. And that's what draws people towards us.
Totally.
I kind of like to use the little either lighthouse or moth to flame thing, whatever it is, the way that you shine.
Well, and my listeners are pretty familiar with the concept of energy, because I talk about that a lot, like how, energy exchange happens, right?
Great.
So that's, I think, a big key too, is, sometimes we just know as soon as we meet someone that our energy vibes well, right?
Right.
Or it doesn't. Yep. And then we say, you don't need to be around me anymore, right? So I think that that's something really important that just to emphasize too, is that when we can recognize, like, ooh, I'm attracted to that person in some way energetically, their light, the essence that they provide or that they put off. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And Dawn will very likely, if she doesn't bring up behavioral styles because she's just being modest or whatever, you want her to talk about behavioral styles.
I just actually checked real quick, and the topic for our interview that day is your behavioral style affecting your referability?
Beautiful. We hit right on the mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing about that is that's that initial meeting, right? So when we both met each other, we were like, "Oh, I like you," right?
Yeah, totally.
We're both promoters. Was one of the behavioral styles. Yeah. So we're high energy. We like to laugh. We like positivity, right? All of that stuff. So on the deeper
totally
level,
annoy some other people because of it.
Right. And they naturally, might rub us the wrong way. And she'll talk about that in depth.
That's because they're lame. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Well, and you know as well as anybody, we got to surround ourselves with diversity so that we can handle all portions of our life.
Yes.
But that stuff's kind of superficial, and I mean that in the most respectful way possible, Dawn Lyons.
But no, it's
it's
the initial
the first
attraction
reaction, right?
Yes.
It's the first reaction. So the deeper, and actually that's a really good point, is that your behavioral style is the initial thing that has to be managed properly before people are even going to necessarily be ready to listen to your why, right? Sure. But having the why is what really deepens the relationship. And let me be really clear. Getting the best quality, most consistent flow of referrals comes from deep relationships. It doesn't come from networking your butt off. Right. It comes from deep relationships with the right people done strategically, and it all starts with them being inspired to help you.
I can tell that there's probably someone thinking of a question that I'm already going to pose. Okay. And then let's address that.
Perfect.
Then I want to hear your why, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So we can make you be the example to understand what you're talking about. Is that
you
all right?
Bet.
So when we talk about maybe it's kind of more like a demand that I pose as a question, just to make sure you agree to it. How does that sound?
Okay.
Good?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so the question that I think might arise is, as we're talking about building a business that's referral based from building relationships, I think a little flag or towel that might wave is like, wait. So are you telling me to go build all these fake relationships for the purpose of building my business? How is that genuine? How does that make sense? But I want to clarify that that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about building genuine relationships. But for people that maybe this is all new to and understanding referral marketing and what that even means, how do you clarify that these relationships we're building really truly are genuine and not just kind of, I'm going to pretend to be really interested in you, so you think that I like you and we like each other and you'll send me business. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely makes sense, and that's a great question. And the first thing I want you to do is write that question down in your notes for Dawn. Okay. Because when we talk about behavioral styles, she's going to talk about the difference between honoring someone's behavioral style and being fake. Mm-hmm. So I would ask Dawn that question, and I think it's a really important component of behavioral styles, and she is clearly the master. So you'll want to ask her that question. Okay. And to go deeper into what we're going to talk about today, it is absolutely not about building false relationships. It's all about being genuine to yourself, having integrity in yourself, but also understanding what is that thing, that why, that fires you up, makes you get out of bed every day. Because if you got out of bed every day and I could, and it was only for money, I think I'd know that. It would register with me, at least me personally, and that wouldn't be enough for me. Right. So what is it that really floats your boat about what you do? And that's your why, and that's the people that you want to build the deepest relationships with will resonate with that. And I got a little story, real quick story. Yeah. I shared my why with two strangers within a week of each other. Both of them were business people that were in businesses that are in alignment with what I do, and they could be good referral sources for me. And I shared my why with them in our very first meeting. One of them I'm still creating a relationship with and still working toward. We're generating referrals for each other. We're ramping up. Her name is Lisa Safran. She's going to be on the radio with you.
She will. She'll be on the show on January 30th.
And the other person first I'm not going to name her just to save face with her. And frankly, I'd have to think about it for a second to get her name, because when I told the story to her, and it's the story I'm going to tell you in just a little bit. Her story, not Lisa, the one that I'm not working with, her story was, that's a nice story. That was her response to my why story. Wow. Lisa's response was quite different, and we'll talk about that after I share my why with you.
And, I think that that's something that also maybe to add a little bit to the question that I posed earlier about, the difference between building fake relationships for the purpose of building referral-based business. To clarify is that what ends up happening as we're building these relationships for our referral-based business is that we're also noticing whose whys perhaps we resonate with, and then whose missions we want to align with, and whose businesses we want to support due to that. You know what I mean? Like, for example, both of our friends actually owns an event center in Roanoke Park, Sally Tomatoes. And because I adore him as a person and who he is and where he's come from, actually, February 28th, Cows is having a big fundraiser there. Talk about a plug. But he's just an amazing person. And I want to support his business because I like who he is. I like what he stands for. I like how he runs his business and the ethics around it. And it's like, I'm a coach, but I'm this big fan of this restaurant, bar, event center. Well, that's because of who he is and the relationship I have with him.
Right.
So I think that that's kind of what we're talking about too, is sometimes it just makes sense when we meet people whose missions we want to support. It makes me think of a lot of the organic, like non-animal tested, all that kind of stuff, makeups and soaps and all that stuff out there. A lot of people don't necessarily know the why, but they want to align with the fact that they're not adding additional harm to the environment. So they buy those products because they want to align with that kind of purpose. And I think it has a lot to do with when we're aligning also with other people to deepen those relationships and build our referrals in that regard as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that shows up with what we do is your story, your why is when we're working with our clients in our Referrals for Life program, we're helping them connect their why to their vision and to their mission statement. And you might resonate with my why, but not on every level.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we're connected to people that once we know their why, it makes total sense that we're hanging out with them.
Yep.
But most people don't get to sharing that why or even understanding what that why is. So when I share mine with you, maybe that'll help. Hopefully that helps some people dig into what their own why is.
Perfect.
And why they're connected to their business and why they care.
Love it.
Yeah.
So, refocusing, and if you're just listening in, it is Inspiration and Information with Jen Julius, and I'm interviewing Mickey Griffith of the Referral Institute. We're going to be sharing why having a why is so important to building a referral-based business, and how building relationships helps to build referrals, and helping people to understand that most business is from word of mouth, is from referrals. So, really helping any business owners out there to really just kind of understand these concepts. So, with that, Mickey, I would love to just give you the floor or the mic, whatever you want to call it, both. Give you the floor, the mic, the chair, whatever you want, my heart, and hear a little bit more about what your why is maybe, and then how can we help other people to understand theirs, and how does it help them?
Absolutely. So I'm going to tell you a story because that's what our why is. As you said on your on your Facebook page, so what's your story? And you can change your story or
how you relate
or
to
in
it.
this case, actually going through your life and picking out the story that needs to be told. And I want to be really clear about something. So our why stories tend to have should have a lot of emotion in them, because relationships are built on emotions. Yeah. And people buy more on emotion than they do on fact.
Right.
And that's also why we create relationships by emotion with our referral relationships. I want to be really clear that the stories may have a lot of emotion in them, but it's not a story that's dramatic for the sake of drama.
Right.
There has to be real meat in there.
Yes.
There has to be a real true thing to it. So I am pulling out specific things from my life and not putting in things that are not pertinent to the story. But it is a story anyway. Right. So here's my why story. The reason that I do what I do, the reason why I love what I do, the reason why I get up at 5 a.m. every day to work on what I do is really my mother's fault. So my mother has called me sunshine my whole life. Sang it to me as a kid, sang it to me as an adult. You are my sunshine. Mm-hmm. You know the song, right?
Love it. I was just singing it yesterday, actually.
So we had a very, very close relationship, and same is true for the other women in my family. My grandmother and I, my aunt and I, they were very, very loving, doting, wonderful people. My stepfather was the opposite of that for me. He liked his beer a lot, and we didn't have a great relationship. While she was telling me how wonderful I was, he was telling me the opposite of that for pretty much most of my childhood. And that was the nature of my relationship growing up with two significant people in my life. And my mother spent a lot of my time helping me manage this relationship with my father, my stepfather.
Right.
And understanding and acceptance and just muscling through sometime, whatever it was, she was constantly helping me manage that relationship and taught me a lot consequently about how to manage other relationships.
Sure.
So the other nature of our relationship, besides being huge huggers, my mom should have patented mama's hugs because she was the best at those. And in addition to that, then the other part of our relationship was actually very educational. She found out I had asthma when I was like 4 and tried to make me into a bookworm, which wasn't much of a leap because I loved them anyway. And it's not a bragging thing. It's just a point of reference that school was really easy for me. I loved school. I told her for years, if I could just go to school every day for the rest of my life, that's what I would do. I would be a student forever. I know there are people that don't feel that way, but I loved learning. So my siblings were all really athletic. So I spent a lot of time playing Scrabble and Boggle and those kind of games. And when they
Where's your fingers out? Yeah.
What's that?
That was your type of athleticism. Where's your fingers out, right?
Well, I tried to play ball a little too, but so they were always. I was playing a lot of word games with Mom, and that was kind of our relationship. Was very educational. A lot of books, a lot of word games, a lot of mind games like brain teasers and genius IQ tests and things like that were very much a part of my growing up. And in my senior or in my high school years, I went to a very, very small private school that my mom worked at. And they would take me out of class sometimes and ask me to help out with the little ones in the school. And I remember this one little girl I was working with, and we were working on very fundamental, 3 + 2, 4 - 1, really basic math stuff. And she really wasn't getting it. And I was getting frustrated trying to help her, and she wasn't getting there. And she was getting frustrated, and I was getting frustrated. And I finally reached over, I grabbed a handful of popsicle sticks, and I put them on the desk one at a time, 1, 2, 3. And I took her hand and put her little finger on each one of them, and we counted them together. And I could still see the room, the way we were sitting, the bookshelves, where they were, where the popsicle sticks were. And we're counting, and she turned to me, and she snapped her head to me, and her eyes popped open, and she got the answer, and she was right. And her eyes just lit right up. And I remember just going, that is just the coolest thing, right? So I remember I went and told my mom, "That's so cool." And this little girl was really, really pretty shy, a little quiet, mousy, little dirty blonde girl. And when I would pull up in school, she'd run up to me and Mickey, give me a big hug, and she was always excited to see me. And the teachers told me that she really kind of started to blossom after that. She really started to feel more confident about herself, and I always felt like that was really a cool thing, right? So after high school, I went into the military, and through a series of relationships that I made there, I ended up in what I think is the sweetest job ever that I had in the military. I was actually teaching everybody on the ship that I was on, USS Missouri BB-63, just have to say.
Just saying.
I was teaching them how to use computers. So I was teaching everybody from what we call deck apes, they're paint chippers.
Okay.
All the way up to the executive officer of the ship, how to use computers. And I loved the challenge of being in front of the room and having people that were lower ranked than me and higher ranked than me and delivering them information. And you speak to people that are a higher rank than you very differently than you can speak to somebody lower ranked than you. But I try to give them all equal respect and understand that there was people that were paint chippers that had more computer knowledge than some of the senior officers, right?
Yeah.
So it was very, very cool to me. I went over to the Gulf. I was teaching computers on a battleship in the middle of the Persian Gulf. My mom sent me a tape while I was over there for my birthday, and happy birthday. And she's singing "You Are My Sunshine" to me on the ship on this tape. And that was just a huge experience to go over there and do that. And when I got out of the military, the first company I went to work with actually hired me because I had written a program for them. And then they had me teach the program around the western states for their salespeople. And every job that I ended up in, every role that I ended up with, I ended up in some sort of training or mentoring or teaching role. And it was just very, very cool to me. My mother and I continued our educational relationship. As soon as Scrabble was available online, we were on it. We were playing Scrabble online, and that was very much part of what we did. I would go back and see her where she lived, and manage the relationship with my stepfather still, and with my siblings and my in-laws by now, and my brothers-in-laws and sisters-in-laws and all that. Yeah. And Mom was always the coach of our family, just like the referee.
Right.
And so many, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. And it's going to be 2.5 years now that Mom passed away from a really horrible, ugly fight with lung cancer.
Wow.
And I say thankfully she lived in another state only in regards to I don't know that I could have done what my sister did to take care of her.
Yeah.
I'm not built that way, and my sister really is. So she went through chemo and all kinds of horrible stuff for a year and a half. Wow. And in January of the year she passed away, she had a vicious case of diverticulitis and something inside of her burst. And they called me and they said, people who are normally healthy that have this have 50-50 shot of surviving the surgery. So you might want to get on a plane. Yeah. So I got on a plane, I got there, and as soon as I walked into the hospital, the first thing that happened was my sister-in-law managed to tick me off. Mm. And I thought, I'm here, I'm upset, my mother's in surgery, and you want to tick me off right now. I was so mad at her. And I walked in to see my mom, and I'm still mad. And my mom's cut open up the middle and tubes and all that going on. And what am I talking to her about? I'm complaining to her about my sister-in-law. Mm. And my mother looks at me and says, have patience and have grace. You don't know where she's come from. You don't know enough about her to say. And that was really who my mother was. She was very understanding, very accepting, and very much about pouring into other people. And so she passed away in June, and I went back for the funeral. And I wanted to speak, but I couldn't. I couldn't get up and speak. And there was a long line of people getting up to speak, though. And when I got back and reflected on who that line of people was, I was back in my business that was going very well, and I was really busy and had a lot to do. But I was staring at my computer for 2-3 weeks, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't work. I didn't want to look at another website. I didn't want to look at another design. I didn't want to do any of that. And I'm thinking about this line of people that went across the platform and talked about my mother, and most of them were in one of two age groups. They were around that 18, 19, 20-year-old, or they were in the same age group as my mom, 65 or so. And the ones that were the younger ones were all people that had been in kindergarten or first grade with her. And they were talking about how she had made such an impact on them. Wow. And poured into their lives and started them off right and all these great things. And the other people that were in her age group were all teachers that she had worked with or people that she had counseled or helped or whatever. And I was looking at these people, and it finally dawned on me. Here I was, thought all this time that I was just sunshine. Mom saying it to me that she told me I was, and I thought I just popped out, was born, and I was just sunshine. What I realized was that she had given that to me. Now, she gave it to everybody else, maybe under different names, but that was a gift that she had given me. It wasn't mine. She gave it to me. Yeah. And it became absolutely important for me that if I was going to carry on a legacy for her, it was that I help other people find their way to shine. And that was the time that I reached out to Dawn and said, I need to move this relationship forward because I can't help. The marketing world was great for helping me people let companies shine by doing websites and design. But what I really, really loved was sitting down with them and saying, what's so important about your business and why are you unique and those kind of things. I didn't know what it was, but I was asking the questions about why do you do what you do? Yes. Yeah. And it was paramount that I find a better way to do that really fulfilled me. And because of my love for education and that desire to want to help people shine, there's no better place for me to deliver what I do and the reason why I want to do it. So that's the reason why I get up at 5 o'clock every morning. And that's the reason why I absolutely love what I do. Yeah. Love it. Love it. So that's my why.
Sorry. I always have to take a deep breath. Even though I've heard your story a few times, I'm always very touched.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So,
well, and I appreciate you sharing it too.
It's my pleasure. And I have to tell you that when I first came into the Referral Institute was about 4 months after my mom had passed away. Oh. So it's still really fresh. Yeah. And I went through the process of developing this why in front of 6 strangers. Right. And I'm, crying like a baby, and it was still really, really fresh. Now we're 2.5 years removed, and it still moves me every time that I say it. And again, what I said earlier was it's not about being dramatic for the sake of being dramatic.
No.
This is absolutely why I love what I do.
Yeah.
And it took me a year and a half to believe what Dawn and Mike were saying, which is the more you share your emotionally charged connection, which is what we call that why story, the more people will be drawn to you. And my desire is for people that work with us to not wait a year and a half to tell people their story, because it's an emotional thing and it's difficult, but it's the thing that people connect with. And I'm going to take you back to Lisa Safran and the other lady that I can't remember.
Yeah.
When I told them that story, and that was pretty much the story I told them.
Yeah.
The one of them was like, deer in the headlights look, and said, that's a nice story. And Lisa Safran was welling up and gave me a hug, and that's why Lisa Safran and I are still working together. She's an amazing presentation coach and a wonderful person that you'll love to have on here. But her and I resonate, and we meet. Now, for whatever reason that is, I've had people hear the story and they connect on the fact that I was in the military, or they connect on the fact that about the Sunshine song, or their mother passed away, or they know somebody else who had cancer, and they connect with all these other levels. But it's still in that same wheelhouse of why I love what I do.
Sure.
And those are the people that are showing up to be in my business as clients, and they're also the same people that show up as referral sources.
Got it.
And the great referral sources will absolutely resonate with that. If they don't, they'll eventually walk.
Right. And that's okay.
And that's okay.
And I think that's something to emphasize. Like, that's okay.
It is something that we emphasize, and that's why I was saying earlier, once you have that why, when we're doing this at the Referral Institute, we that why is critical in the building of your vision for your business, because if your vision is not accomplishing what your why is about, then you're off track.
Right.
And your mission is all about, are you staying on track? And if your values based on your why are not represented in your mission for your business, it will fail because you'll be out of alignment with the thing that drives you the most.
I had to jot that down. It's funny because I just love the synchronicity that happens in my life, and so many people's if they pay attention to it. But I've been talking about like crazy, and I actually just wrote a blog on this I think a week or two ago. And this week I just did a presentation on it, and I just did some coaching on it. Like, it's all over for me right now, is the concept of making sure that our values and our priorities are all in alignment. Also with our time, that's when we'll really have a happy, healthy life. But really knowing what our values are and allowing them to exist, really understanding that my values might not be the same as your values, and that's okay. Not buying into all the societal values that society tries to say, well, this is what they should be. But really figuring out on our own, like, what do we truly value? What is really important to us? What are our priorities in life, and how can we align with those?
Right.
And so just hearing you relate that concept that I've been coaching people just in general on as a kind of driving life force of saying, if you want to really build a happy, healthy life, you need to check yourself, who you're surrounding yourself with, what your values are, how you're aligning with them or not. The example I give is, for me, my number one value above anything else is honesty, like brutal honesty. I keep it real. You know that.
I do.
And what goes along with that then is, like, I could probably never have a dirty sales job where part of my job is to sell things all day
and be dishonest,
where I'm exaggerating the factual basis of what this product does or something like that. For someone whose number one value is not honesty, then maybe it's not that big a deal.
Sure.
The point is knowing your values and figuring out how you can align with them best, whether it's in business, work, relationships, as far as friendships and intimate relationships and family, because sometimes our family does not align with our values, or our values shift from what our family's values were as we were brought up. A lot of people experience that. So as we're talking about this, it's just like I'm going crazy because this is so my theme right now of understanding your values, which might then also relate directly to your why, I would guess, in some cases, and how that then correlates with your vision and mission of your business.
Absolutely. And that's what we work on in our programs is we start with, because when you talk about referral marketing, again, it goes back to relationships. Also, a huge part of my story was how my mother helped me manage relationships.
Yeah.
I was a very angry young man, very angry. And she did a lot about between her and the vice principal, who was also a counselor, about helping me manage all these emotions. I'm sure the Navy beat a lot of that out of me too, but it was all about respecting others. And I also want to clarify, I didn't learn that when I was 20. I didn't learn it until, and I'm still learning, how to always honor the other person in the relationship and that kind of thing. But the relationship development is absolutely critical. And it's one of the things that we talk about, with saving people time, because people say, I don't have time. And when you get down to it and you start asking them how they're spending their time, they're out there going to every networking event they can find, and they're trying to meet every person that they know and to meet every person on the planet. And that's not the way to generate business. That generates really super razor thin relationships that will not give you consistent high quality referrals. In fact, they can waste your time even more by giving you low quality, horrible referrals that are out of alignment with your values.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we were to give a tool or two, perhaps, how can someone, because for me, this is something that I've been working on for months, I think, is really trying to figure out how to really nail down and formulate mine. And that's something that I know I've been excited about for when I'm able to finally come do work with Referral Institute, because I know that I'm going to be able to really focus that energy on it and figure it out and nail it down. But still, from the very basic standpoint, for a lot of people that might be listening, to even start to wrap their head around what their why could be. Do you have any tips on how someone could tap into just starting to figure out the theme that could have to do with their why?
So how to develop their why?
Maybe how to develop it, but if someone's like really coming from like, I have no idea at all, like what, for example, the way that I encourage people to figure out their values is to figure out if they really can't think of it, figure out their deepest triggers.
Okay.
So for me, one of my biggest triggers is if I get lied to. Well, then what does that tell you?
Right.
That honesty is probably a big value. Does that make sense?
Right. Absolutely, because one of the things that's my triggers is angry people. So when somebody's angry, you want to see Mickey leave a room fast? Just have somebody start yelling. That's the easiest way to get me out of the room. And one of my core values is joy. Joy is bringing joy to other people, having people be in joy, me being in joy. That happiness is absolutely critical to me. And anger is a huge trigger for me. So
interesting.
Yeah.
I love and I so appreciate you sharing that, because this is such a beautiful example of how people can just have such different values in some regards. I mean, I totally think that's awesome. But for me, it's like, I'll totally get down with angry people. No problem. Like, let's roll, you know?
Yeah.
But I appreciate you saying that, because it's just a beautiful example of like how values intertwine and how people can dance with each other's values and, you know, how people can still align on really deep levels.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
To go back to, as I was kind of explaining, for someone that's just like, I don't know, what's just like could you give an example of a really basic starting point of like, how could you even start to figure out what, and even it's maybe not the why, it's just like, what really has a driving force behind you? What are you passionate about or whatever? Yeah,
that's a great question. And
probably a hard one to answer.
It is a really hard one to answer. And the truth is that everybody's why is so different that it comes from different places. And we really work through it in a process. We have to. And it starts with questions. And the questions are, what about that so important to you?
Got it.
What about that makes you tick? And I love what you talked about with triggers. I'm going to steal some of that. Just
sure, please.
So because core values, as they get represented, it's okay. Well, so my core value is joy. Well, where does that come from?
Got it.
My core value is joy, and it comes straight from my mother. My mom was the biggest smiler. There's people on her Facebook that still will go to her Facebook page today and say, "What a great smile." Right? And that's her. And also with the mama's hugs, you're going to cheer me up again. Okay. It's critical to me that I'm happy and that the people around me are happy, because that's the environment she tried to create.
Got it.
So what is it about what I do? How is that represented in my why? It is critical to me that other people are happy. And I know that if you're going to be self-employed, the best way to be happy is by bringing in the type of business that you love to work with and the referral sources that you love to work with that bring you great referrals.
Right.
And they bring you the kind of clients that make you go, God, I can't wait to see them today. Right? When you look at your calendar and you see a client that you are so 3 days and they're going to be here, 2 days and they're going to be here, there's something about them that resonates with that core value and with that why. So I love where you started with core values. And then the other thing is it can be very difficult to do this on your own.
Right.
It's the kind of thing that I benefited from having somebody ask me the deeper questions and really push back when I would stop and say, yeah, it's because I like to be happy. Well, but why is it? Why do you like to be happy? Well, everyone likes to be happy. Well, that answer is not deep. It's not personal. It has nothing to do with why I feel like joy is important.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where I would start.
I really appreciate that, because just as you're talking, and I have been reflecting more and more on my own values. I look at my two, I would say, probably my deepest two values of being honesty and respect. Mm-hmm. It completely correlates, and I think this is one of the things you and I have in common, is it's a direct correlation, our values to our parents. For mm-hmm. me, my dad is the shining example of honesty and respect. That just the perfect example to me of solid oak. Mm-hmm. You stand by your word. That's that. You show respect to people. Mm-hmm. I was raised with a lot of Midwestern values, in my opinion. You open mm-hmm. doors for people, sir and ma'am, yep. And that's kind of who I was. I even remember a funny little story. When I lived in San Diego, I actually had a stranger give me attitude and ask, "Why did you just hold that door open for her? You don't even know her." And I just kind of bit my tongue for a second and was like, I don't know, man. That's just how I was raised,
Who are you to have common human decency?
Weird.
Lord.
But it's one of those things where I don't know. Sometimes it's strange to people.
Well, and you're getting to a good point, though, too. And a lot of our why comes out just in our in those behaviors that we exhibit without doing them on purpose.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what are those things that you would do every day? You would do them even if you didn't have this job. And it happens sometimes that we get entrepreneurs that talk to us and they don't love what they do, and when they don't love what they do, that it shows, and
yep.
and you can see them struggling. So that's a tough one too, and it's not necessarily our expertise when they don't love what they do. It's either there's one of two options: either finding what they really love to do and helping them get onto that, or finding what they love about what they're doing.
Sure.
And connecting that to what they do.
Would you say a lot of what we're talking about is pretty aimed towards entrepreneurs?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And the reason for that is people that are collecting a salary mm-hmm. are rarely driven by why they do what they do.
Right. And I kind of wanted to touch on that just to specify for a second real quick if I could, because I want to really also just make it okay for people to not have their own business
right,
and not
right.
have this big why behind it, because
right.
I remember I was coaching a woman who, for her, it was actually really important that she have a job that was just kind of okay, but provided a really good income.
Of course.
So then all
yes.
of her hobbies and extracurriculars could be completely in alignment with her values. So sometimes that's how people are. And I'm a big fan of that too. Handle your business, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And do what you need to do to be happy.
That's a great point, because I do not want people to abandon their jobs and run
right.
out and go follow their dreams, so to speak, without guidance. I mean, that's jumping
right.
off the cliff
right.
without a net, and there's something to be said for that.
Right.
And having the faith and belief that you can make it happen. I get that, and we also don't tell people just to have a why and then not where to put it.
Right.
What are you going to do with that? Okay, so now I've found what I love, what I do, and it's not what I'm doing in my personal job. Find somebody who can help you channel that, and a professional that knows how to channel that and help you take next steps. I work with a couple of career coaches, and one specifically that I just love, that helps people figure out what that is. But it's not what my specialty is. My specialty is all about finding out why you do what you do, and then sharing that with your referral sources so that they're attracted to the light that you're putting out.
Got it.
Yeah.
Totally.
So I do have a tool here, though, as far as using.
Let's do that, because I was just looking at the time. Yeah. I told you an hour will fly by like nothing. Nothing. So let's definitely.
Okay, so here's the thing about having a why, and this is why it's important to have a why. That's what we talked about. We've talked about why it's important to have a why, and now what are you going to do with that? Okay.
Got it.
So here's the thing: if you want to find and keep the great referral partners, the ones that bring you consistently fantastic referrals on a regular basis, you have got to shine. And shine, I'm going to use that as an acronym. So we're going to go through all the steps here real quick. Okay. So the S stands for smile. You got to smile.
I never do that.
And I want, yeah, you never smile. She's got a billboard smile over here. No. I want to make sure that you understand when I say smile, I don't mean to be foolishly happy or blissfully ignorant. I mean that we need to be friendly. We need to be at least showing on the surface that were somebody that people might want to be around. And I would ask Dawn about this if you want to, but every behavioral style has people that want to be around them. So it's not about I'm an examiner and people don't want to have fun with an examiner. That's not true. My grandfather was a huge examiner, like very dry, super, and also one of the funniest people I've ever known.
Love it.
Right?
Love
so
it.
It's not about his behavioral style. He still had a great, in fact, we talk about his Cheshire Cat grin that he had, right? Just this total Cheshire Cat thing. Huge dimples. Anyway, so it's not about being foolishly happy or blissfully ignorant. It's about sharing that smile in places and in everywhere that you go, but in a genuine manner, right? And I'll tell you why. They've done a study, and this study was great. When I looked it up, I was like, "Oh, this is perfect." They did a study, and they related a story to people about a situation. And there was a main character in it, and they wanted to say whether or not people felt affinity for the main person. And so the first set of people that they had read the story, they had them take a pen or a pencil and put it in their teeth and hold it like this.
Huh.
I know you can't see that on the radio, but imagine holding a pen in your teeth, right?
Yeah.
And so it forces you to
There's
use...
really a secret camera broadcasting us live.
Yeah,
no.
So it forces you to use the muscles that we use when we smile. And then the other group they had read the story, they didn't do that too.
Interesting.
And the people that read the story with the item in their teeth had a stronger affinity for the character than the people that didn't. So it's if you smile, people want to be around people that smile.
Weird.
Okay? And again, it's not about being blissfully ignorant or being, just a smiling idiot, right? It's about genuine warmth more than that, okay?
Well, and actually, I think there's been studies, just to share this real quick, because I do it sometimes like a maniac, that I believe smiling releases certain happy chemicals in your brain.
It does. Yes,
so
it does.
I've actually encouraged people, like when you're really down, literally force yourself into a smile because it'll start to trigger some of those happy chemicals. So I'll be like super mad and driving around like a maniac going, oh, I'm so happy, like this big old fake smile, but still it's like helping to trigger some of that.
And I want to go back to the part about being genuine too, because if you're not genuinely smiling, first of all, you ever heard the statement, it doesn't meet their eyes, their smile doesn't make it to their eyes? When you see somebody smile and it doesn't reach their eyes, we know a disingenuous smile when we see it. And what will happen when you're building referral relationships is if you are not genuinely being warm, if that's not, if you're not genuinely wanting to create a mutually beneficial relationship, it'll come out. It will come out, and that relationship won't work.
Totally.
Okay. So here's the other thing. So smile. S is for S.H.I.N.E, right? So S is for smile. H is for hear or hearing. Are you actually listening to the people you're having one-to-ones with? We do a lot of talking and not much listening. And some behavioral styles are well known for that. I'm pointing at you and I, right? Mm-hmm. Lisa Safran does a fantastic improv thing about listening to the other person and hearing what they're saying. So you might ask her about that when she's here. She's really good about that. Also, a long time ago, somebody said a great networker has 2 ears, 1 mouth, and they use them proportionally.
Got it. Yep.
You have to hear what people are saying. And
Absolutely.
It's not just the nuts and bolts. You hear what's important to them,
Totally
hear what
agree.
drives them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The I in S.H.I.N.E stands for inspire. We have to inspire people or be inspired by them, actually both ways, to have a truly significant and effective referral marketing relationship. Because if you don't make me inspired to help you, I won't.
Right.
Okay. So how about the know, like, and trust thing, right? You've heard this.
Yes.
People who know, like, and trust you will refer you, right?
Sure.
Mike Macedonia handles that in a book called Truth or Delusion. And it's, truth or delusion. People who know, like, and trust you will refer you. Well, it's a delusion. It takes know, like, and trust to make a referral even be possible. But we have to create relationships with people to have them actually want to do it. And if you don't inspire them to want to take action on your part, they won't.
Right.
When something falls in their lap, they'll say, oh, yeah, you should talk to Mickey or you should talk to Jen, right?
Right.
But if we don't inspire them to do it regularly, then it won't happen.
Sure.
So that's the I in S.H.I.N.E, inspire them. The N in S.H.I.N.E stands for nourish. We have to feed the relationship, just like plants, just like our garden.
Yes.
It requires water. It requires compost, food, sunshine. It takes time, and we have.
I'm sorry, I'm cracking up because I just was getting complained at last night for watering my plants at like midnight. I was like, well, I just remember they need water. It's like
gotta be
we
watered.
do. You've got to remember.
Relationships are no different, and Dawn Lyons says that busyness is the biggest enemy of relationships, and it's so true. How many people do you love that you don't spend time with because we're too busy? Yeah. And if we're too busy to meet with our greatest referral sources, then we can't nourish the relationship.
And sometimes best friends,
them.
because sometimes they're the same thing.
Yeah. Well, at the very best level, your highest level referral sources are also your friends.
Right.
They can be, right?
Yeah.
And that takes nourishing the relationship.
Yeah.
And part about nourishing the relationship is that we're putting time into it, and we're doing what we call putting deposits into the relationship.
Yes.
It's important that we're constantly doing that.
Well, and it's similar to people, the common sense of friendships. If you're constantly the friend that's always calling, saying, listen to me complain, blah, 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 but then you're never available when your friend needs to talk, or you're never calling them for anything besides complaining.
Yeah, I always ask if anybody's ever been in a one-sided relationship. One-sided relationships are great. Now, we talk about that in the referral partner process, that it has to be reciprocal. Yeah. The relationship has to be.
Sure.
So it has to be nourished. And so the E in S.H.I.N.E stands for evolve. The relationship has got to evolve. It's got to continue to move, because the world's going to evolve whether we want it to or not. The economy is going to change.
Yes.
The way we do business changes. The way we communicate together. Are we learning together? And I mean that let's talk about just referral marketing, for instance. If you are getting great referral education from the Referral Institute and your great referral sources are not, then you have great knowledge and they don't. You're evolving and they're not.
Right.
You're going to speak on a level that they're not ready to speak on.
Sure.
There's no evolution going on there. We're not growing. And in business, if you're not moving forward, you're backing up.
Right.
We don't stay still. So it's the same thing with these referral relationships. We can evolve naturally, or we can purposefully accelerate the evolution of the relationship. And that starts with the kind of things that I'm sure you're a big fan of, and that's open, honest conversations.
Yep.
Hey, this referral didn't go the way I wanted it to go. So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Where did it come from? How do you know them? How can I help you make sure that they go better? So evolution is also not easy. Right? Evolution might come with some growing pains, and the people that are willing to stick it out and make those relationships work and go through the evolution process are the ones that may be in it for the long haul. And by necessity, having a relationship has its bumps, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And if you're going to be in a long-term relationship with people and expect the highest value out of it, you're going to have to expect to evolve and go through some of those speed bumps. It's what we do to handle them and how we get over them and how we move on that really makes a difference in the constant evolution of the relationship, and it's super important.
Yeah.
So that's the tool. That's if you want to attract the greatest referral sources and keep them, you have to shine. Smile, hear them, inspire them, nourish the relationship, and evolve.
Wow.
That's it.
I love it.
Helpful?
What a great tool. Yeah.
Good.
I think so.
Good.
Absolutely. I just want to take a deep breath.
Okay.
I knew that this would be like jam-packed, but I didn't realize it would be super cray. Jam-packed.
Super cray.
Super cray.
We do that to my son just to drive him nuts. We go cray adorbs.
Right?
Oh,
gosh. Oh, anyway, no. Yeah. So, we're probably confusing a lot of our listeners right now because we're talking total 12-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're just now tuning in, you just heard the tail end of Inspiration and Information with Jen Julius. I've been interviewing Mickey Griffith of the Referral Institute, and we've been sharing about why having a why is critical to building a referral-based business. And he just shared his acronym S.H.I.N.E, which is for Smile, Hear, Inspire, Nourish, and Evolve. As we wrap up, because we do need to, crazy. See, you were a little concerned, and I said, "Hey, I got you, boy."
Oh, I knew we could talk long enough. I just wanted to make sure that
we actually stayed on track.
Well, that it was a good use of your time.
Oh, being around you is always good use of time, Mickey.
Perfect.
So, is there anything in closing that you perhaps want to summarize, share, or just touch back on before we close?
Yeah, we talk about this in the Referral Institute a lot, and it's really simple, but it's not easy, right? The concept that I laid out to you, and it's not rocket science, right? What I just laid out there was not anything that you need a degree to do. The concepts are really simple. It's the delivery that's not easy.
Yeah, actually.
Being in love is easy. Being in a relationship is not simple.
Hear that? Yeah.
Right? Can I get an amen? Right? And it's the same as true for referral relationships.
Totally.
And if you want to wait for referrals to just drop out of the sky and just have people give them to you because they heard your name and they kind of know you and you're willing to take all kinds of garbage referrals that might come to people, then by all means, don't worry about developing your why. It's not important. If you want to create really strong referral relationships with 12 people at the most, and by the way, if you develop 12 relationships at the most, you could generate all the business your business could need, right? If you want to generate the type of business that you want, that means, and I mean the type of clients that you love to work with, the types of referrals that we love to get.
Yeah.
It doesn't start with what your company does. It's not a list of features and benefits. It's some attraction of our referral sources to why we do what we do. And when they're in alignment with that's how they draw people to you, because they're going to be proliferating that why story. And because they're in alignment with it, the people they attract will be in alignment with it.
Got it. Perfect. All right. Well, again, I just want to thank you super much for being here. And I think that I know that our listeners got a lot of really great information. So I would love, if you're open to it, can you share with them just how to contact you or where to get more information about you?
You bet. Okay. The website address is Referral Institute SF Bay.com. So Referral Institute SF, like San Francisco, Bay.com.
Got it.
And from there, they can click on the contact button to get a hold of me. My phone number and email address are there.
Perfect.
Yeah. And if they search YouTube, they should be able to find my my channel, whatever. I've been working on it for a few months, so I'm still getting used to telling people, go to YouTube, look for Referral Institute, Mickey Griffith, and they will be able to find my YouTube channel. Would love for people to subscribe to that. I try to keep those videos under 2 minutes, so they're usually really short, little quick tips, and hopefully people will find them helpful.
Perfect.
Good.
Well, thank you so much for trekking out here and being on my show.
This is really my pleasure. I have had such a fun. You've set my day on fire. I'm going to have such a great day. Yeah.
Yay. Love it.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening as well. And do make sure to check out, if you're interested in more info about Mickey and some of the things he shared, Referral Institute SFBay.com. And again, thank you for listening to Inspiration and Information with Jen Julius. You can find out more info about me at jenjulius.com.